Hi, my name is Alex Elson. The study I'm going to discuss had the purpose of increasing the use of eating utensils at mealtime in a child diagnosed with autism and a sensory processing disorder. The participant in the study was a 5-year-old boy diagnosed with autism and a sensory processing disorder. He lives with his mother, father, 9-year-old brother, and a 6-month-old brother. He has trouble with fine motor movement, such as holding a pencil, cutting with scissors, and using his eating utensils. He receives ABA therapy in his house 4 hours a week. He works with one behavioral therapist and has one supervisor. He also has a one-to-one aide at his school, and he sees an occupational therapist, a speech therapist, as well as sees the school psychologist. The target behavior that I am going to be discussing is increasing the use of eating utensils at mealtime. This is defined as picking up fork or spoon with hand, pick up food with desired eating utensil, putting food into mouth with the desired eating utensil, and then placing eating utensil back onto plate while chewing food. This behavior was chosen because it often interferes with the family's mealtime as well as affects the amount of places they can go out to eat as a family. It is also often an antecedent for more intense problem behaviors such as noncompliance with the family and the therapist and elopement from the dinner table at home as well as from the table when they are out to eat. Frequency data was collected when Chase was attending to a meal where a fork or a spoon was involved. A single subject, reversal ABA design, was used to evaluate the effectiveness of the social story and token reinforcement intervention that was set into place. The first phase and the third phase were baseline. The second phase consisted of the intervention. Each phase lasted 5 sessions. To ensure validity of the data, IOA data was collected 3 times during the baseline phase and 3 times during the intervention phases. IOA was calculated using trial-by-trial IOA and recorded as a percentage. IOA remained at 100% the entire time. All sessions occurred in Chase's house. During the baseline phase, when it was time for a meal, the therapist would tell Chase to get ready for the meal as he normally would. When Chase sat down to eat, the therapist would verbally prompt him to use his utensils in addition to use his utensils. She would also verbally prompt him when he engaged in noncompliance and elopement. During the second phase, the intervention, a social story was read as an antecedent modification in addition to implementing the token reinforcement. When it was time to eat his meal, the behavioral therapist and Chase would read the social story. After reading the social story, Chase and his therapist would then review the expected behaviors or dinner table rules. Chase would be rewarded with verbal praise after going over the social story. For example, "Wow, thanks for reading the story with me." Once the social story intervention was completed, Chase and his therapist would sit down at the dinner table. Next, the token reinforcement system was implemented. For every bite that Chase took correctly, in accordance to the above stated definition, he earned a token along with verbal praise. For every bite that Chase did not use his utensils correctly, according to the above stated definition, therapists would use a verbal prompt to remind him to use his fork or spoon. Prompt fading was implemented. Full verbal prompting, for example, "Don't forget to use your spoon," was used in the first phase. It was then reduced to indirect verbal prompting in the second phase, for example, "Oh, what are you supposed to use?" And then reduced further to a gestural prompt in the third phase, maybe a tap on the shoulder to remind him. Chase earned his tangible reinforcement if he used his utensils correctly 80% of the mealtime. If Chase engaged in noncompliance, the maladaptive behavior was ignored and the demand was kept in place. If Chase engaged in elopement, he was brought back to the table to continue eating his meal. As you can see by my graph right here, during the intervention phase, during the baseline phase, you could see that Chase did not use his eating utensil correctly that often, He used it in approximately 45% of the time correctly at an average. During the intervention phase, you can see it spiked. It increased dramatically when the intervention was implemented. He had an average of 95% correct. When we went back to the baseline phase, it dropped slightly, but it was still above this initial baseline phase. The third baseline phase, it was an average of 75% correctly. Treatment fidelity was assessed for 30% of the sessions. The mean of the treatment fidelity also remained consistent, just like the IOA at 100%. Treatment fidelity was tracked using a checklist. One limitation of this study was that it was a single subject design. Secondly, due to time constraints, the ABA reversal design was used. An ABAB reversal design would have been much more satisfactory. Lastly, social stories and the token economy system were used simultaneously in the intervention phase. Therefore, it is unclear as to what role each treatment technique played in increasing the desired behavior. Additional research should be conducted to separate the different techniques and to examine each separately.